Meanwhile, right after this video statement was released by Vijay, you had a detailed press conference by the government where they released videos and the likes to allege that TVK is to blame. And then they even said that the reason TVK is to blame is because the cops couldn't control the situation, that the Tamaraga Vetri Kargam should have ensured more volunteers were on the ground. So is the government therefore suggesting that TVK volunteers should be doing the police's job now? This is the statement that's come in from the Tamil Nadu government, saying the incident could have been avoided if TVK had deployed more volunteers. Listen into that.
Police வந்து நீங்க சொன்ன மாதிரி ஒரு 500 people strength போட்டுருந்தாங்க கூட எந்த ஒரு மாநாடு ஆர்கனைஸ் பண்ணாலும் அந்த கட்சிக்காரங்க ஆர்கனைசர்ஸ் ஆல்சோ அந்த பொறுப்பு எடுத்துக்குவாங்க. வாலண்டியர்ஸ் போடுவாங்க. அவங்களே வந்து அவங்க ஆட்கள்லாம் ரெகுலேட் பண்றதுக்கு ஆள் போடுவாங்க. ஸோ இனஃப் ஆஃப் வாலண்டியர்ஸ் போட்டிருந்தா கூட இதை அவாய்ட் பண்றதுக்கான வாய்ப்பு இருக்கு. போலீஸ் வந்து நீங்க சொன்ன மாதிரி ஒரு 500 people strength போட்டிருந்தாங்க கூட எந்த ஒரு மாநாடு ஆர்கனைஸ் பண்ணாலும் அந்த கட்சிக்காரங்க ஆர்கனைசர்ஸ் ஆல்சோ அந்த பொறுப்பு எடுத்துக்குவாங்க. வாலண்டியர்ஸ் போடுவாங்க. அவங்களே வந்து அவங்க ஆட்கள்லாம் ரெகுலேட் பண்றதுக்கு ஆள் போடுவாங்க. ஸோ இனஃப் ஆஃப் வாலண்டியர்ஸ் போட்டிருந்தா கூட இதை அவாய்ட் பண்றதுக்கான வாய்ப்பு இருக்கு.
Pramod Madhav and Anaga Keshav joining us live with the latest updates on the story. Anaga, bizarre statement that's coming in from the government. The onus of law and order lies solely on the, is the responsibility of the police. There's no two ways about it.
Well, right, Akshita. In fact, that's the reason why we even elect a government. The responsibility and the onus of ensuring the lives of citizens are protected squarely falls on the ruling administration, and that's why they're in power. And instead of instead of taking responsibility, instead of acknowledging that there was a lapse in duty, the IAS officer goes on to squarely pin the blame on TVK. She goes on to say that TVK's volunteers should do the job of 500 policemen. That's absolutely atrocious coming in from a government officer. How can untrained TVK volunteers do the job of trained police officers? That's the kind of narrative that we are seeing, pinning the blame squarely on TVK. But even TVK, in fact, even in Vijay's statement, he has gone on to dare Chief Minister Stalin to instead target him and leave his party workers aside. In fact, Vijay has also cried foul by saying that there was a conspiracy that was planted. Of course, there has to be evidence before making such a huge statement. So on both sides, in fact, complete washing of hands is what we are saying.
Which is unfortunate. 3 days since the Stampede, nobody is willing to take responsibility. But are we really surprised? I want to bring in Pramod Madhav also. Pramod, on what the DMK's response has been to Vijay's statement.
Well, one thing is very certain, Akshita, what happened here is that we did ask the IAS about this particular statement because she said 500 policemen were deployed for 10,000 people, but the crowd strength went up to 20,000, which was actually already thought about considering the previous programs over there. And Davidson Devasrivadam said that 500 people is a good strength for 10 to 20,000 people, but as one larger crowd came together, they could not control anything over there. Now, coming to actually what Vijay said, it is kind of just like you mentioned, there are a lot of questions still Vijay needs to answer, but he says that they did not do any mistake. He says that he went and stood at the place where he actually was allotted. But here in this particular press meet, they played a kind of Vijay thanking the police, claiming that if the police did not help him, he couldn't have come over here. That was the first statement he made at that event. So, blame game on one side. It looks like both sides had to retrospect right now. And DMK specifically, we did put forward this question to TK's Ilangovan, where Vijay says, CM sir, if you want to take any revenge, do whatever you want to me, but do not touch my cadres. For that, TK claims that there is nothing to do with revenge or something like that, but he needs to answer to whatever has happened. Here, in this press meet, a very important question was asked, Akshita, that's something we need to also retrospect, and that is about, was there an evacuation plan? It is a very, very important question for which the officials said that there were two gaps on either side of the road. The public, if they want, they could have gone, but they did not do that. So that is where the role of the police and volunteers come over, because once the police and the volunteers gauge that there is going to be an issue, they are supposed
to ensure emergency exits, is to ensure emergency response. None of that was there. Who's responsible for that? Well, I suspect you're just going to see endless finger pointing. Thanks, Pramod and Anaga, for joining us with all of those details. Let's run you through all of the updates that have come in on the investigation.